if it's not their time, they will come home. They will come back in this physical presence. So Jalaram Bapa is also very dear to my family. So I went to Virpur with my tiller devices. Okay, this is like
Oh, I
going to
should
the
probably,
sanctuary of
Nisha,
Lord Rama. Yeah.
I should probably then just go ahead in the slides so that everyone could see at least a device.
Yes.
And while I'm transiting there, um, just take a deep breath, everyone, because what was shared, I could feel it. Nisha was getting goosebumps. My heart was filling up. And I'll come back to this slide. Well, maybe I'll stop here.
Yes.
Slide.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this picture is from pillar number 4, and it's Tiller, Dr. Tiller, and his students around with him. His original imprinting of the device was at Stanford University, and he had his graduate students gather with him. And it's very important, take this away, that he wanted the imprinting team to be inner self-managed. And he actually asked that of me. He said, I will not accept you under my wing unless you meditate. And this, at first he refused to work with me. He says, you don't know physics. You shouldn't mess with this. You should really do your medicine. Stay there. But he had a change of heart, and he called me about 3 months later. It was July, I think it was 2009. And we met in Scottsdale. And I knew that I'd met my mentor because he knew science, but he also knew the inner work. And to me, joining the two is where we need to go. I hadn't said it quite like that, but I knew in my heart that you need to do those two things. And maybe it's my Hindu household. To me, spiritual work is very natural. It's just how I was raised. It's something my family do. Ram Bhagwan, Hanuman, we do Hanuman Chalisa. So I knew those things are really crucial for daily living. And at the time I met Tiller, I'm very open in my inquiry. I've read the Bible, I go into Buddhism, I go into Mother Mary. These are not separate to me. To Nisha, they're all non-duality. It's very real to me. So when I met Tiller, I was actually a student of A Course in Miracles. And so when I met him, I didn't know what actually questions to ask him. I was actually quite afraid because he finally agreed to meet with me. And I had all these questions and psychoenergetic science, a copy of his book, and I'd made so many scribbles, but I couldn't quite get my questions coherent enough. But I met him and I said, oh, I'm going to go for it. And I was terrified. And then this wonderful human being came with his wife, Jean, and we had dinner. And I think, in a sense, I wanted to ask him something around deltrons. And I said, you talk about deltrons in psychoenergetic science, and I think you're talking something of emotion and spiritual work. And do you know A Course in Miracles? Because that's my study right now. And that's when he just floored me. He floored me because I thought he wouldn't know this book. And he turned to Jeannie and said, oh yeah, remember Helen Schuckman? She came to Menlo Park. And I thought, what? What do you mean? What do you mean, Helen Schuckman? She says, yeah, she came to my home, our home in Menlo Park, with the original manuscript of A Course in Miracles to read. I thought, how is this possible? Helen Schuckman is in Columbia University. She was a professor of psychology, and she was guided to come to Dr. Tiller, and he read the script, and he says, I really liked it because Jean and I live like this. You see, A Course in Miracles is laid over 365 days, and you have to set an intention to go through the lessons. It's a practice in a thought system. That's it. That's all it is, if you really ask me. It's a question of setting your intention of changing your inner world like the thought system of Master Jesus. Jesus was the perfect student. He set the tone 2,000 years ago, okay? And so we're having a correction of our mind. And Tiller reads this and says, it was obvious this is a magnificent course. And Helen Schuckman invited him for a foundation for inner peace, but Tiller had made up his mind to somehow bridge the gap between science and spirit. And he says, I really need to do that. And I had my responsibility to stay at Stanford. He had made up his mind. His intention was set. And so he didn't join the Foundation for Inner Peace. And actually, I saw the original manuscript when I go to his labs in his home in Payson, Arizona. Okay. So Tiller, at that dinner meeting, to me, spoke volumes, and I knew I'd found my mentor. To me, that was it. That he had seen the original course, he was guided, and that Helen Schuckman came to him, and that he had this physics know-how, that if anybody can join the two together, it was him, all right? But then I wasn't going to let go. I did one other thing. It came a few years later, and I write about it in the book. And this, I was very vulnerable when I wrote about this, but the editor pushed me, and she says, you got to talk about this. You say these things, but I don't believe you. and so I took psychoenergetic science, and I took it to Dr. David Hawkins. I wanted to make sure that Tiller's data that was so mind-blowing wasn't just a fudge. It happens, I mean, science can be, I wasn't sure. And so I took it to Dr. David Hawkins to say, does this book go into the realm of the nonlinear? When I say the word nonlinear, I'm talking about the way of the heart, the way of love, okay? And Hawkins, on that day in Prescott, Arizona, I remember it very, very clearly because Dr. Hawkins, first of all, confirmed that for you, Nisha, when you calibrate something on the map of consciousness, on levels of consciousness, you're being given the right answer. And I said, okay, you just confirmed it. And you have said that science cannot go into love. It's stuck in the intellect. It's in the 400s. And I know I'm using some numbers, but I encourage you to go to my book because I lay out the levels of consciousness there. So he says, you're being given the right answer when you calibrate. Then I said to him, okay, this book, Psychoenergetic Science, reads like a lab manual. And you've just said, I'm being given the right answer, but it's over 500. So either your consciousness levels are wrong or my technique is wrong, which it isn't. You just said it's correct. What gives? There's a mismatch here. So Dr. Hawkins turned to Susan, which he almost never does. Hawkins always said, hold it in your mind. Don't say the book. But I was not going to go from that seminar without my answer. And I took the book and I said, calibrate, tell me the truth about Tiller's science. And he put it at 575. 575, folks, is over 540, which is unconditional lovingness. Tiller's science goes right near 600, Sat Chit Ananda, okay, which is ecstasy. This is where you're knocking on the doors of self-realization. I was shocked. I'm going to hold it here. I was absolutely dumbfounded that Tiller's science would take us there.
Yes,
Whoa.
It's another moment. It's another big moment. And it's one I'm just going to ask everyone just to breathe that in as you and I, Nisha, transition to this moment where you said to Tiller, I've been walking around with the psychoenergetics, you now know as 575 on Dr. Hawkins' levels of consciousness scale. And you ask him, can we make this more accessible? What does he say to you?
That's your job. And I even told him, you need to make this visual. I don't understand it. And I'd read Psychoenergetic Science multiple times. And he said, that's the simplest book. And I thought, No, it's not. It's not. There's too many concepts that have to be linked together. And anytime Tiller speaks, there's many concepts wrapped in. Okay, you have to really unravel them. This picture, you see, this is very important in intentionality. First of all, you have this vague thing in your head. I want this, I want this, I want that, I want to lose weight, I want to be healthier, I want to get rid of pain. Intentionality will get you started. Just go in the most immediate thing. That's okay. That's okay, because it's so important for us. Okay, I do too. I brush my teeth. I want to have coffee. I want the sun to shine, and we all have these needs. What Tiller did was, okay, I have this intention and I want to test it. He did the second thing. First of all, he was very clear about writing it out. That was his tool. You can be a potter and you can make clay. You can have an engineer and you can draw it. You can be a mom and make chocolate chip cookies. And Nisha with her, I cook and I put my hat on. Whatever hat brings, you are. For Tiller, it was his spiral notebook and a pen. Really, he would have it in his briefcase. And he would whip it out and he would say, I wrote an intention. Can you read it and give me your gut sense? He rendered it physical by using alphabet and language. And we would revise it together. And then he did something very important. Please listen up. I do say it, and actually it was lost on me for years because he would write it, but I didn't get it until I wrote the book. And then the whole weight of it came on me, and I remember going, whoa. He wrote, thy will be done. What is that? That's the Lord's Prayer. Master Jesus' prayer. On earth as it is in heaven. Tiller used scientific things in his language. May the water's pH hydrogen ions, may the autistic children have proper functioning in this environment on earth. He's writing those things, but he didn't say my will. He didn't say the funding agency will. He didn't say Stanford University's will. He didn't say my this editor's will. He said thy, God, your will. He used genius, spiritual work, spiritual anchor to science, linked it, bridged it. I pray all of you here today, when you write your intention, may I lose weight, thy will be done. Ask to be shown the truth. Tiller wasn't saying anybody else. He just said, my Lord, thy will be done. Show me the truth in this intention statement. Show me the truth that this can happen, that my intention can, because my intention is you, your will. And make no mistake about it, God isn't here to punish us. And when I say the word God, it isn't a form up in the cloud somewhere. It's an infinite field of love, impersonal, non-judgmental, loving. And so if in this moment you have difficulties, write them out. Ask to be shown the lessons in them, and that ended with thy will be done. I always do. I have about 50 intentions going on at any one time. I write them all the time, okay? So Tiller wrote that intention statement and wrote thy will be done, and then he meditated on that with a group of people, his team at Stanford, and then later on Jean and other folks who stayed with him. Actually, Walter Dibble was a graduate student from Stanford and was one of the imprinting team members for many, many years. And this is the other thing. This is a clue. And this is the subject of my second book. And Myra, go back to that picture from the book, please.
Oh, yes.
Look at that picture of the unseen. I didn't know what I was doing. I just said to Dario, write the unseen. It's something important. Because Tila kept on saying, Nisha, it isn't just us. We're willing, we hold, but the unseen colleagues do the heavy lifting. Unseen colleagues, look at the word colleagues. It's like, hey, knock on the door, colleagues. He's a scientific participant, non-separated, not in a temple, a church, in a hospital, a wing. It's in his physics lab. Who or what is your guide? What is your guide? Who? When I say who, forgive me, because I'm trying to communicate something. Really, the quality is what. The correct pronoun is what. And if you don't have one, just say, I give it unto love, okay? The word unconditional lovingness. It's okay. Just think about these questions. But Tiller says unseen colleagues. And one Thursday Eileen said, who are these unseen colleagues you keep talking about? And he leaned forward and he put 3 fingers up and he gave me names. And I didn't know what to say. It had no meaning to me because I was so scientific. I'm even pointing to my head. I'm in my head. Tiller was in his heart. Okay? And now when the Bridging Science and Spirit is completed, I stand back and I realize I need to go there. The relationship between one physicist and the divinity. How do they interact? What are the beautiful concepts and colors and shades that weave? Each has a role. And there the magic begins to happen. So talk about thy will be done. Link with your divine. And link with the symmetries because they're already present. They're not separate. They're already inbuilt in your physical, with the acupuncture system, with the chakra system. They're always your link to the divine. And here's the other thing. You and I cannot hold an intention for 30 seconds, 5 minutes. Tiller was holding one statement. He would read the statement, may the hydrogen ions increase by factor of 10, right? I mean, literally a science protocol, thy will be done. No separation in his mind. And then lets it go. Silence. Half an hour. That's all they're holding. Imagine. And then they go, thy will be done, and then conclude that imprinting session. So I've attended a few. It's really magnificent. But Tiller says, you're not the imprinter, Nisha. You're too noisy. Too much chaos in my mind, yes? Now, much better. I can hold a meditation very easily. I meditate 2, maybe 3 times a day. I very easily go there. And I love it because I talk to my angels. I talk to my angels. My guide angel is Raphael, and he helped me with the bridge, by the way. One day we will talk about how he helped because it was very, very real. And yeah, I asked him to help me with the linking.
You had many miracles along the way, and when you speak to how your meditation has improved, and you speak to Tiller being in the heart and not in his head, as you found yourself often in your head, talking about your monkey mind, and which I find all delightful. I remember in the interview with Tiller, I asked him about all that process of entanglement. And he let out a kind of a clue that I deeply appreciated because, at this time, I had received a pointing out instruction that I had a stable mind. And I really didn't even appreciate what that meant when Lama said, your mind is stable. And it was when I really, in that interview with Gaia at Gaia Phil Radio, and Dr. Tiller answered my question, he said, basically, the entanglement process takes a stable, concentrated mind. And at about 20 minutes of being able to hold a stable, focused consciousness, the particles entangle of your intention with the reality you're in. And I tell you, that was worth everything to hear that. And it's something I gently try to encourage people to undertake, is the real training of our consciousness to settle and to be able to stabilize so that we can be here on the planet as a really incredible bridge for heaven on earth. And isn't that what we're talking about? It's just so that.
Absolutely. Here's the thing about the mind that helped me, and I hope it helps all of you. You see, your mind, first of all, it's not yours. We have a tendency to say my mind, my thoughts, my private thoughts. We hoist onto it ownership and something special. And we even worship the mind, we give it degrees and give grant money. And so, but the mind is actually impersonal, like the heart. When you woke up this morning, the heart is beating. You don't have to say heartbeat now and push the blood around my body. The lungs are breathing oxygen. You don't have to say lungs, stop breathing. And like that, the mind is doing its own. It's supposed to do that. The mind is intrinsically moving. It's not yours. And it's not under your control. If you say it's my mind, you should be able to stop and start it, right? So once you understand that, you have a peacefulness. Oh, it's supposed to do that. The second thing is, your mind is already silent. 99% of it is already silent. And what Hawkins once said, and it was really beautiful because it brought a lot of peace to me, was that think of your mind as a vast stadium, okay? Every seat in that stadium is empty. Empty. It's open, empty space. One corner of that stadium is a little radio playing, and all of your consciousness is going on the radio. But the stadium is silent. Once I knew that, I thought, oh yeah, I can let these things go. I mean, it's just my antenna. My antenna wants a new job, and I want this and that, and I just let it go. And so it started to float away. I didn't try to get in between thoughts and try to stop the thoughts and all of that. It went away. And so your mind is already silent. It's its nature. It's impersonal. Don't own it. And once you know that, then you suddenly make a big jump forward. Okay? So I hope that helps you in just your meditation practice. Impersonal. Don't own it.
Beautiful. Thank you. I just put a big wow, put that into the notes because I saved the chat notes. Listen, folks are having a little bit of conversation here. They've been wrapped in what you've been saying, but there are a few comments, and I know that you probably can follow some of those. If you would like to, of course, leave at the top of the hour because you just can't stay, please just don't worry. We're going to record.
We have a few more minutes, Myra.
Right.
Yeah,
but let's go for a few more minutes to just have a conversation with those who are with us to see how many hands we can move through. I'm going to invite you to, if you're on Zoom, if you go to participants on the bottom of your screen and click on that, you can actually raise your hand and let us know that you'd like to say something. It might be the most efficient way. And we'll see how many questions we can take, comments, before we say goodbye. Debbie Lynn, you were just saying my favorite practice is to listen to the silence beneath the noise. Yeah. I saw something from Charlotte. This is fascinating. So new for me, and yet so familiar. I follow the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, and he talks so much about the power of affirmations and always says, the stronger the will, the stronger the flow of energy.
I would say stronger flow of information.
Information these days. You got it. He would do.
Yeah, the energy does, where information flows, energy goes.
That's right.
So, but at that time, energy is so much more intuitive, so it's fine. But Tiller always used to gently tap me on the shoulder even. Nisha, remember, it's information.
Indeed. Andrea, he says, so sweet and well unfolded. Thank you so much. I know that there's another message down there, so I'm just going to go through a few of these until I see some hands pop up, and maybe there are.
You know, Yogananda comes in the pillar 1 of the book,
Wow.
in the chapter of psychoenergetic science. Psychoenergetic science is the capacities of humans that are already there, the siddhi powers. So you can do remote viewing, clairvoyance. These are there already. And they become activated. I'll give you an example. One of my patients, she's a obstetrician and gynecologist, and she really loves meditation, and she built a little temple in her home and went for it. You know, with the pandemic and all that, I mean, she's meditating, and her deity is Hanuman, actually. So one day I receive a text from her and says, I need to talk to you. Something's happening. And I thought, okay, let's get on the phone. I thought it had to do with rheumatoid arthritis. No, she says, I love meditating. I'm doing 1, 2, 3 hours at a go. So it became very deep for her very quickly. And she says, I can read people's minds and I can tell the future. By a few days, I know exactly what's going to happen, and it's disturbing me. I don't like this. How do I take it away? Do you see? The gifts in her became activated, and she had to pray for them to be taken away. So folks, when you meditate, these things can happen to you, but keep moving through them. We are not here for the gifts of God, but for the divinity itself, for the love of God itself. All right, so be aware. and Yogananda, you know, in pillar 1, I talk about that he was very awake. He would wake up in a field, in a battlefield, you know, he talks about that. But he would also see through walls in Dakshineshwar, which is where Ramakrishna was, and it's shimmering, and he can see right through, and a cow is passing by the field. And so I gave an example that it can be scientific. Patricia Cyrus found Saddam Hussein with it, but it's really a spiritual tool. We're just joining the two. Yeah, just giving a little extra difference. That's all. It's don't worry about it too much. Yeah.
Vanmala has said, love the way you said, drop into your heart. That heart is love. It is so familiar. We do the same in heartfulness. Is there a way to connect all these spiritual movements, such as self-realization, fellowship, heartfulness, mindfulness, and such, together with scientists, medical professionals, to make this consciousness movement bigger?
Well, you don't do anything. You just do you. So you don't try to convince anyone, but you are responsible for you. So, you know, you bring a question up that some of the young people have said, how do you convince people? This is fantastic. You cannot convince, but you do hold yourself. You hold your silence and your love. And by that, you radiate out. You're not alone. You're entangled. We make no mistake about it. So by your own work, all the sea floats higher and all the corks float higher because of you. And by the way, you know, there are 10,000 pathways to self-realization, to know thyself. And those tools are there. I don't take them away. But in my inquiry, my mom used to get a little upset. Why do you go through this and then this and this retreat? But it's just Nisha. So going to Ram Dulari or Vimalaji or David Hawkins or Buddha or Master Jesus, they are very real to me. Or Saint Raphael. There's no separation. But even science is a tool to self-realization. Even science. But once you realize that, and I used to complain to Tiller, science will never get to consciousness. Forget about it. And he would listen to me very patiently. And he said, one day he did this, literally took off his glasses and he said, science is a way to self-knowledge. It's how you're using it. Your weight loss program can be a way to self-realization. Why not? Give it over to God. Surrender. Find out the truth in your lessons and make it such an adventure. You have owned it now. It anchors you. You've learned it. Move on. There'll be new lessons. Keep moving. Don't be attached.
Debbie Lynn says, when we walk our own path and live well, others will become curious about our path and seek their own. I love the magic of radiance and resonance, me
Yes.
personally, and that's where I love to work. Laura asked, I would love to hear Nisha talk about conditioning space. I am moving into new space in my home and trying to find the energy in the right room. How was Tiller's garage different from your garage?
Yeah, you know, when I went to his home in Payson and I visited his labs, whoa, I tell you, it had computers and temperature things. In fact, Tiller says, whoa, Nisha, your biofield is too large. I was actually making things go, ooh. And he told me to sit in one corner. But what was very fascinating is that in his garage, in his physics lab, one felt peace, like I was in Westminster Abbey. Okay, does that help you? You can close your eyes, close your ears, but when you close your eyes and ears and everything, if you're in your imagination in the abbey or a high cathedral, you're there. So how do you condition space? With your intention. In fact, I invite you to even write as I'm saying this to you, okay? I humbly request my new home on address, street, XYZ, town, state, and country to be uplifted from ordinary reality to a higher space. You can call it our space, but higher space that is imbued with divine energy and information, that it serves in the highest way for me, my family, and all of humankind. Thy will be done. May it be so. Okay, so you're already preparing ahead of time. You can do another thing. You can take tangible objects, and I think, you know, this is Padre Pio. He's very special to me, by the way. Padre Pio he's an incorruptible saint, and he appears in pillar number 7 of my book because I went there and I saw that the biology in a very highly awakened consciousness does not behave normally. The rules of nature are different. So you can take a book or Bible or rosary or tanka, something that is precious to you, and go and put it there. Okay, so you can, because everything radiates its essence. Every object is enlivened, and I do say this in the book. Do objects have consciousness? Can we treat them as dead things? And the Buddha relics are a clue. A little relic is alive, has aspect of Buddha's loving kindness 2,600 years on. So make no mistake about it. Your objects can be taken to your home. And what a lovely thing to do now, to create that our space, to anchor it, and so it's nourishing and your consciousness expands in there, you know. Your mind is more silent in those spaces, so you can create bigger things, bigger information, enduring information. I hope that helps you. Yeah, but link with the divine. Link. Let them do the heavy lifting. Make them your colleagues, just like Tiller did. Participate.
Beautiful. I'm so glad you answered that with the specifics. And gave those words that help. I think everyone can use that. Charlotte has just dropped off the call, but she just purchased land, she and her husband in France, that they are really dedicating to the great work of listening to the earth, and listening inspires. And I'm sure that comes at an incredible time for her. You know, Nisha, that one of those devices that you imprinted in India came to me, and I was able to dedicate that device. The intention is for the global fresh waters.
Yes.
And that has been incredible to be in this space with that device, bringing in those heart-filled energies from the sacred site in India. Yes. But but also something in our most recent conversation you and I were having as you were checking in on me and I with you was around the way in which I was imprinting the device at this point, but also the deeper truth is that our own bodies, our own vessels are containers of our space. We are walking our space. And I really would love for you to speak to that a little bit, because that's the field of being that we are.
Yes, yes. So humans are not just flesh and blood. Not only this thing I'm holding up, which is atoms, molecules, biochemical things, but we have inbuilt in us the acupuncture meridian system. That's of a higher symmetry state, okay? And that's what powers the muscles and nerves. We think it's the other way around. We think it's the brain doing something. No, actually, no, it's the acupuncture system, which is the source of free energy, okay? And anytime, and I teach this to my patients, if I'm doing medicines or vitamins, nutritional things, I tell them, make sure you have a little time to just breathe. And if you can hold a posture, or even the opening sequence of Tai Chi, your acupuncture system will increase the chemical potential of whatever you're doing on the biochemical level, the biology, okay? So the art space is already there. You just have to connect with it. A good way is Qigong. A good way is Tai Chi. A good way is intention, just this. Let's close our eyes. I tuck my chin in just a bit, breathe in a little bit, and just be there. You're enlivening it, okay? That's just it. If my patients are not sure, I do one other thing. If they're not nervous and if it doesn't come off as, what are you saying, Dr. Manek? But I do teach them this. And this came from a patient also. She was doing Tai Chi. I told her she's a lawyer and she has rheumatoid arthritis and she didn't like methotrexate. And she discovered this on her own, okay? She said, Dr. Manek, I take pretend this is medicine. I put it in my left palm and then I cover it with my right palm and I hold it for about a minute. It has to be at least a minute or more. And I just stay with it. It's like a blessing. She didn't use that word, but it is like a blessing. She says, I just hold that the methotrexate will not make me sick. She needed it. I mean, there's no other way. She didn't want steroids, but it had to be methotrexate. And she didn't want to be on the biologics either, but her body was inflamed. She needed methotrexate. The science was important. Mm-hmm. And then she came to terms with that, learned some Tai Chi, found that, oh, this energy moves. And she says, what if I put my medicine? And it's interesting, she found the left hand. She found it on her own. Puts her hand, and then she says, I take my medicine, and guess what? I don't get sick anymore. So I called her. I said, hey, what's with this left hand, right hand thing? She says, Nisha, the body has polarities.
That is just so beautiful, really.
Like a magnet has polarities, okay? Wow. So the receiving hand is the left one, and you'll see mudras. The right hand gives. So she was just giving to her medicines. So do this with your vitamins, your supplements, your water. Purify it with your hands. You can do it.
Wow. Well, I tell you, this has just been glorious. You've been generous to stay an additional 15 minutes with us. We've had people that were staying on going, oh, I need to leave. Oh, I'm missing. Please speak to the recording. So anyway, I have those notes. Stephen has said his goodbyes. Debbie Lynn, Charlotte had to drop off. They all, though, very much appreciated your time. Van Mala, I know that Deepa was there from Heartfulness as well, and he had to drop off. So we'll make sure that you get the recording to share, Van Mala. Thank you for being with us today, by the way. I just thank you, Nisha. And do you have a little bit more you could say about your upcoming book? What do you have in mind in any way we can help?
Yes, it's been such a joy, those unseen colleagues of Tiller.
Yes, right.
So there's no library. There is, so I wrote to Stanford Department of Religious Studies, and they helped me a little bit, but they were like, what are you talking about? This is Old Testament stuff. I said, no, but I want everything you can get me. And so I've mostly, it's the manuscript is there, and it's been such a joy. To me, the spirituality speaks very quickly. The science is actually harder.
Oh
I
my
find this even in clinic. It's very hard for me to, I have to sometimes, Tiller told me this. He says, you have to anchor yourself. You just go, woo, over here. So he says, you're very, I get very enlivened. To me, spirit is so natural. I just don't see why not. So the book is around the relationship of these three entities or colleagues with Tiller. What are the natures of them? What are the specific attributes, or you might say, you see, angels are not just angels. They have their own also attributes, is what I'm finding out now. Like the goddesses in Hinduism, the 9 goddesses have, one is for wealth, one is for learning, one is for fierceness and truth, and all of that. They're all divine attributes. So we have those 3 angels have their, and as I researched them, I realized the role they played in the Tiller target experiment, okay? And so when you say, thy will be done, you are surrendering that outcome to the divine, and they will work. They will give you the instinct of what, how. Each word is pregnant with meaning then, okay? So this is where my joy is right now, is to go into the angels, the angelic realms, and they are there, okay?
God. Oh, Nisha.
Invoke them, say thank you to them, talk to them. I sometimes imagine a rush of wings. So for me, Raphael was very real. So one day we'll talk about how he stepped in with bridging science and spirit. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I just love the backstories, because that's where we really can make the connections. So I'm putting up the book cover again. And to all of you, initially this was conceived as a conversation with those of you who had read the book. I'm so glad we opened it up more widely. Thank you, Kate, for sending all your responses to the questions. If any of you, as you read, feel inclined to send responses to the questions that I sent out to you, please just forward them on. Well, I'm sure as the book is being written, what you share may be helpful. And also, there's still ways to put a testimonial for the book on Amazon. So if you don't mind, let's do that for helping the book also. I mean, there's some real concrete things we can do. We're attached to the field. But if you feel inspired and you feel in resonance, go to Amazon and, give a few lines about your experience of reading this wonderful, to me, it's just one of those opus, kind of epic translations for our time.
You are creating information, what you're creating, or whatever, or even I didn't, there are more questions, but that informs. It makes it, you're creating form, but you're also informing other readers. And so it's a big gift. Yes, I would.
I can't wait to be with you, being with you online. You really do have the effect of steroids anyway. You're a powerhouse. That's why everyone says, calm down. But I say, no, just Nisha needs to be Nisha. That's all. Just, Nisha needs to be Nisha. Put your hat back on and be the goofball you are. I can feel it. I can feel Mom, and I can feel Raj, and all of them with us.
The audiobook is in production, by the way.
I was wondering when the audio would come.
Yeah, it's coming. And pillar number 7 is being narrated. Let me see if I can. I don't know if it will come through the Zoom.
Well, try. No, you know what? I hadn't made you host, but I tell you, anything you want to send, we could, I can include.
Okay. Always, yeah, I'll send you
we could do another conversation when it's time to announce the next wave, because we could just keep this conversation going. I think the other story we probably should have told was how you found the artist. Oh yes, that story.
Oh, Dario, his life changed as a consequence of this.
Okay, well, tell us a little about Dario.
So he's in Italy, and I put my work on my folio or brief, and invited designers from all over the world to submit. Basically, it was a tight timeline. It was in 2018, and Dario was one of them who replied. Well, he did something. He actually drew a couple of samples, and this is really interesting. First of all, I had a very tight budget. Okay, I'm a self-published author, and he undercut my bid by 30%. I said, "Come on, there's 60 drawings." I even wrote to him. I said, "Did you read the brief? There's like 60 illustrations, and we'll have revisions. So please don't do that." And he says, "I know what I'm doing. I want to be part of this project." So I actually said, "What's your WhatsApp number? I'm going to call you." Because there were others, there's one from Japan and others, and they said no. And each drawing was like $200. So you're talking thousands of dollars of illustrations, and I hold the copyright. I called Dario. He's in his little Fiat because I can hear the rush, and he says, "Hold on, I go, I have to call him back." And he says, "I know what I'm doing. I want to be part of this project." And he says, "I will get it to you before December." I said, "Are you sure about this?" And he's from Argentina, and he had to go for Christmas to Argentina, Buenos Aires. I was very nervous, but he undercut my budget. He had a drawing which I really liked. And I said, I went back to 99 Designs, which is the platform, and I closed, and I said, "Dario, you're on. Let's go for it." I had the entire drawings done. Listen to this. 6 weeks. Come on, 6 weeks. So I would draw, Copernicus and this thing and a church. And he did the first one, which church falling off Earth. I thought was brilliant. My editor thought that was the most fun thing ever. So, okay. And then Dirac C made me crack up when I said there's a negative C, and, I don't know. I struggled with how do you capture my doodling? And he would come back with something. Like literally, I said, "Don't you ever sleep?" I love visual scribing. And so, yeah, we had
It was a beautiful
and then I showed it to Dr. Tiller. I traveled to Scottsdale and showed him the whole book visually, and he says, "Wow, I love it. I love it." And Jeannie said this, "Finally, a sense of humor."
Yes, right.
Sense of
And
humor.
I think that's what I loved about it, is because it brought you in, because you are, you're just naturally, funny, because it's your honesty in the timing of your authentic blurts. They're unedited and raw and beautiful and funny.
Yeah, they're whimsical. Sometimes it's graphs, but So we wanted
captured it.
Mm-hmm. Because science can be hard. It is technical in many areas. I do accept that. And my editor made me do. She says, "I don't believe a word of what you're saying. I cannot believe a man changed pH of water. Okay, come on, it's impossible." So my editor doubted Homo dubitat. She was the biggest one. And so she said, "You have to bring in the meters, the temperature gauges, the range. You have to do those because you're going to be talking to your colleagues, and I don't believe it and they won't believe it." So to her credit, I did bring some of the density back. Otherwise, it was just essays, just linked up together in the bridge. And the bridge stands. It is 510 on the levels, okay? On the levels
of my.
It's not 560 or no, it's just over. That's all. It serves the purpose. Yeah, it serves.
Right. Well, I remember you did say that you wanted it to be accessible in a particular way, and I think that's what you achieved in those metrics. Louise has just shared Visual Metaphors Inspirational Workbook of Dario. He's with us, and she has the website there in case anyone's curious. Andrea had to say goodbye because of his birthday. Long gone, is calling and have to leave. His birthday is calling. I wasn't even expecting he would be able to make it, but he stayed with us for more than the hour while they were trying to celebrate him. But he says, thank you for such blissful time and energy, opportunity, information. And so anyway, as people have filed off and said goodbye, they left wonderful greetings for you and thanks. So we are going to bring this to a close and just thank you big time, Rosanna. It's always such a magical consciousness raising experience to be with you, Nisha and Myra. Thank you. And so it just continues on and on. You're generous. You're doing telemedicine these days because we're in the COVID world. You also had a brilliant, which I widely circulated to others beyond the community, offerings for care of ourselves during COVID. You included Chun-Yi Lin, which we found, I don't know, beginning of the year last year, that we knew mastered Chun-Yi Lin. Ann Parker, who was on the call, introduced me to Chun-Yi Lin way back in the early 2000s. I spent time with him in Minneapolis. The world is so small.
Yes.
And yet those practical examples of how to care for ourselves during COVID were very well received. And I noticed that people they sent them far and wide, Nisha, so I wanted to just share that with you.
Oh, good.
And if anyone missed it, just reach out to me and I'll send it your way. I think this is a time in which we should collect good, grounded support for ourselves, because I do sense we'll be in this kind of environment for a time. Mother has to do the balancing.
Yes, it's a big reset button, and let's do it. We'll reset.
Yeah, let's just do it. Let's reset. It's an evolutionary driver. It's information that we're entangling with, and we'll be changed by it. And I feel I have an intention to happily be in harmony with those changes. All right, Nisha, do you want to say any last word? You may. Namaste and soha.
Soha.
Goodbye, all.
Bye.
You can open up your mics and say goodbye to Nisha.
Bye, Nisha.
Bye,
Bye, Nisha. Goodbye, Myra. Thank you.
Bye, Myra.
I love you.
Love you all.
Love you all.
So much.
Thank you all for hanging on there.
Oh,
Wonderful to be with you.
Yay. And Clarity, you came in from Wells an hour in. I'll send you the recording.
I'm so sorry. I thought it was 5.
Oh, well, not to worry. We recorded the whole thing.
Oh, thank you so much, both of you. That was wonderful. What did I like?
Excellent.
Thank you.
Bye, Louise.
Hi.
We can't
Hello,
see you.
goodbye.
That's a lovely picture, though.
Catherine's looking good.
Yeah, she is.
This is me in real life.
Down there in Galveston,
Looking
living and bathing in the moon and the sea.
Yeah. Oh, I'll show you the view from the porch. It's so wonderful. I don't know if you can see that, but
Oh, Catherine.
yeah. That's just medicine. Yeah.
I tell you, it's medicine indeed. Everything you send, oh my gosh, I just yum it up. Well, we have to bring it to an end, so one more kiss off. Goodbye, luminous.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Myra.
Goodbye, Nisha.